A message from scientist of the heart, being in the mystic zone. Greetings from home, dear ones. I am the scientist of the heart. Today I move to the forefront of the group of 9 to give you an overview of troubling items that seems to pervade many paths of lightworkers moving forward. Let us explain. In our open question and answer broadcast, we often hear from people who want to move forward, but feel they are blocked or burnt out. Although they feel as if they need a change in their work, most do not have any open doors to make such a drastic change. Many have family members who rely on them for support, which makes them even more hesitant to initiate significant changes. There are also those who feel their relationships have stopped growing, or even that they have fallen out of love. Perhaps they do not wish to rock the boat, or they are afraid of hurting their partner by telling them how they truly feel. There are also those who have specific goals with a preset path laid out before them, but they often lose inspiration and feel empty inside. All in all, change is difficult for humans. We wish to bring you an alternate view of life from our side of the veil and unlock some of the greatest possibilities that lay before all of you, no matter who you are. Creativity in different levels of life. There are many extenuating circumstances that affect decision-making. Of course, viewpoints change with age and differ greatly in various stages of life. As a preteen, most have their greatest desire to grow up and be an adult, so they can make their own choices instead of taking only the paths laid out by their parents. Yes, that is why many young adults end up taking a direction that's diametrically opposed to that of their parents. Then there are the teen years, when for most there is a certain fearlessness. It feels as if the reins of control are now off and they can determine their own direction. Experimentation opens up all sorts of possibilities of finding one's passion in life. Although sometimes there are negative consequences to those experiments, it's also a critical time of free-flow creativity where the feeling of being magical emerges. Young adults who choose higher education are usually required to choose one path of study, which from our perspective is one of the greatest killers of creativity. Being forced to choose their path at this age usually ends up with people who study one thing, then work in an entirely different field later in life. This pattern of blocking the creative flow by societal norms often results in many of those questions we spoke of earlier. Relationships. Most adults are obsessed with supporting themselves or creating wealth as a means to find happiness. Many fall in love and have a family, creating wonderful opportunities for growth. Let us speak of relationships here, because people do not grow at the same rate. As people evolve in life, they often grow apart, but that is not wrong, dear ones. If two people can continue to grow their relationship and their love in a harmonious way, they can have a long-term relationship. Good relationships are not determined by how long people stay together. They're determined by their ability to communicate openly and freely, fully supporting each other even in their differences. If that communication is lost, the relationships become routine and the partners often feel empty inside. One of the challenges we see is in the way humans perceive relationships. They often judge them by the way that they ended, rather than by the depth of the love and support that they shared. We often hear parents say they do not want to cause their children trauma by ending the relationship their family was based upon. But what are you really teaching your children when you do that? Are you not predisposing them to the same challenges as they grow up and fall in love? There are many tools available to help rebuild relationships, such as marriage counseling or therapy. We always suggest using those before prematurely ending a relationship. But if those tools fail, then staying in an unfulfilling relationship can be detrimental to both your magic and your creative flow. Being in the mystic zone. If you have ever watched professional sports, you've witnessed an important point we wish to share with you now. To be a professional athlete, you must learn the rules and then practice to teach the body what to do. Current understanding is that this is an action of the prefrontal cortex of your brain. However, once you are at that level of competence, you must then stop thinking and get out of your own way. This is often referred to as being in the zone, which actually bypasses the prefrontal cortex altogether. Let's say you have mastered the art of throwing a baseball in the strike zone, and you can do that 97% of the time. Now, imagine that you're on the pitcher's mound practicing. You are throwing perfect pitches in the strike zone when someone walks up to you and offers you $1 million if you throw the next pitch into the strike zone. Well, your odds of doing that just decreased tremendously. Why? Because you would naturally engage your prefrontal cortex and think too much, rather than staying in the zone and letting your body do what it already knows how to do. In sports, it's often called muscle memory, but it is the same thing channels do when they channel spirit. They must put themselves in the zone and stop thinking long enough to allow the flow to come through them. The same is true of musicians, writers, artists, and everyday people just going through life. Can you imagine what it would be like to stay in that hyper-creative zone all the time? If you had that ability, you would never feel stuck or burnt out in your job, relationship, or life path. Being in the zone takes practice, lots of practice. That's why we have always said that the art of creation is done by balancing the head and the heart. Use your head to set your direction, and then trust your heart to lead the way and place you in the zone. This becomes even more important as we step into higher vibrational status in the fifth dimension. Our intent is to give you a different perspective from which to view your own life and your spirit's path as you play the game of pretending to be a human. Walk with confidence and know that your spirit knows the way if you allow it to speak through you. Please remember to treat each other with respect, nurture one another, and play well together. I am the scientist of the heart, and I love you dearly. Espavo.